SuperTalk Mississippi Media production.
State Treasurer David McRae is returning record amounts of money to Mississippians, whether it's through the College and Career Savings Program or the hundreds of millions in unclaimed money awaiting your claim. Treasurer David McRae says get your applications and claims in today. Treasury.ms.gov. It was previously recorded.
Oh, yeah.
Good morning, Mississippi.
Everything gonna be all right this morning.
Mornings with Richard Cross.
Oh, yeah.
Here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Woo! Now, when I was a young boy.
Good morning and welcome in to Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi. Today is Friday, August 7th, 2026. Glad to have you along. When I say we're glad you're here, I genuinely mean that. Glad that you have chosen to make MRC part of your morning routine, and hope you are getting ready for a good weekend with the final day of the work week. Finally here. Mornings is presented by Community Bank, online at communitybank.net. Find them online there, communitybank.net, rooted in our community. You know that the best way to communicate with us, with me, with Will, is on the C Spire text line, 601-879-4395. 601-879-4395. Obviously, we don't do as much messaging on Fridays, but we do have a good show coming up for you this morning. A bunch of the conversations that we have had throughout the week, and kind of looking back, it was hard to decide what do we put into the Friday show today, because it has been an outstanding week thanks to all the guests that have joined us throughout the course of the week. We'll give you a reminder of what's coming up today, coming up in just a little bit. Let's jump in and take a look at the weather. It is going to be toasty this weekend. Today and into the weekend for Tunica, mostly sunny, highs in the mid-90s with a heat index over 100 degrees, really all weekend low. The overnight lows on Saturday and Sunday night are going to be in the mid-70s. A little bit of a chance of a shower or thunderstorm popping up in the afternoons throughout the course of the weekend. On Saturday in West Point, patchy fog early, then mostly sunny with a little bit of a chance of rain. So today, Saturday, again into Sunday, mid-90s in West Point with overnight lows in the low to mid-70s. Going to be warm there. Woodville, Mississippi, southwestern corner of the state. You've got highs right around 93, 94 degrees for the next couple of days. And again, a little bit of a chance of a thunderstorm or maybe some showers mixed in. All in all, pretty good in Woodville this weekend. Ocean Springs, you're going to be in the upper 80s, but the humidity is going to be intense. On Saturday night, the low is around 80. If you even get to 80 degrees, same thing on Sunday night. That's what's coming up throughout the course of the weekend. Chance of showers. So across the state, hot, mostly sunny, some typical afternoon thunderstorm chances. The farther inland you go, the higher those chances are, and you can expect heat indices statewide to be in the triple digits throughout the course of the weekend. Ralph Bunchy was born on this day in 1904, a long time ago. He, pretty significant historically, the American diplomat and political scientist who was the first African-American to win the Nobel Peace Prize. He won that in 1950 for his mediation work that helped end the 1948 Arab-Israeli War. Garrison Keillor, born in 1942, a radio icon from the state of Minnesota, the author, humorist, and radio personality, creator and longtime host of public radio variety show A Prairie Home Companion, known for his storytelling from fictional Lake Wobegon, where the women are strong, the men are good-looking, and all the children are above average. Robert Mueller was born in 1944, the American attorney and government official. He served as director of the FBI from 2001 until 2013, and then later led the special counsel investigation into Russian interference of the 2016 election. Don't know that he made a lot of friends during that particular time in his career. Wayne Knight, the American actor and comedian, was born in 1955. He is best known for his role as playing Newman on Seinfeld, also the role of Dennis Nedry in Jurassic Park. David Duchovny was born in 1960, the actor, writer, and director. He was FBI agent Fox Mulder in the long-running series The X-Files, and later in the comedy drama Californication. The actress Charlize Theron was born in 1975. She is South African, won the Academy Award for Best Actress for her role in Monster back in 2003. She's been in Mad Max Fury Road, Atomic Blonde, The Old Guard, and many, many others. He used to be Sid the Kid. I guess he's not so much of a kid anymore. Sidney Crosby, born in 1987, the Canadian professional hockey player, longtime captain of the Pittsburgh Penguins, a three-time Stanley Cup champ, and widely regarded as one of the greatest players of his generation. Speaking of great players, one more that was born on this day in 1991. American baseball outfielder for the Los Angeles Angels, that would be Mike Trout. 3 times he has been named American League MVP. One of the most dominant players of the last 10, 15 years when he's been able to stay healthy. He's kind of been stuck in Los Angeles, though, not with the Dodgers, but with the Angels for a really long time. On this day in 1782, George Washington, as commander of the Continental Army, created the Badge of Military Merit. The award, which was designed as a purple heart-shaped cloth, is the forerunner of the modern-day Purple Heart. It's the first U.S. military decoration specifically authorized for enlisted soldiers. In 1888, the first of the Whitechapel murders attributed to Jack the Ripper occurred in London's East End with the killing of Mary Ann Nichols. In 1942, United States Marines landed on Guadalcanal and nearby islands in the Solomon Islands, launching Operation Watchtower. It marked the first major Allied offensive in the Pacific theater of World War II, and it was the beginning of a 6-month Guadalcanal campaign. 1974, how about this one? French high-wire artist Philippe Petit walked a tightrope that was strung between the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center in New York City. He was approximately 1,350 feet above the ground in a daring and illegal stunt. In 1990, President George H.W. Bush ordered the deployment of U.S. troops and aircraft to Saudi Arabia in response to Iraq's invasion of Kuwait. It was the very beginning of Operation Desert Shield. News headlines for you this morning. I guess this is celebratory news, although it could make you a little sad. Drake Bassett, our friend at Palmer Home for Children, the president and CEO there for the last 15 years, has announced that he is retiring early next year. Drake, in a video announcement that was released yesterday, said, "For nearly 15 years, it's been a pleasure and a privilege to be a leader for Palmer Home for Children. That season is coming to a close, and Palmer Home is going to embrace the next chapter." During Bassett's tenure, the nonprofit underwent significant growth and change. In 2019, they consolidated the 2 campuses in Columbus and in DeSoto County into one at Lake Cormorant. In 2022, they opened the Dr. Hugh Francis Jr. Wellness Center, an absolutely beautiful gathering space on the Palmer Home campus. In 2023, Palmer Home School opened, providing tailored education for children who've gone through trauma, adversity, or academic setbacks along the way. Bassett said that his retirement will take place sometime in early 2027, but he will happily walk along and work alongside the next CEO that is selected by the Board of Trustees. He says that he plans to remain involved with Palmer Home as a supporter and will be the #1 fan in the years to come. Industrial tank manufacturer Bishopric, I think I said that right, Bishopric Industries is expanding operations in Natchez with a nearly $6 million corporate investment. Formerly, they were Interfab Process Solutions. They pride themselves as an industry leader in engineering, fabrication and execution of process tanks, pressure vessels, and specialty equipment for a wide range of industrial markets and infrastructure sectors. Company plans to meet an increased demand for their services by building a new storage facility. Good news coming for that part of the state of Mississippi there in Natchez. A Copiah County man has been charged with manufacturing marijuana after an illegal farm was discovered at his residence. According to the Copiah County Sheriff's Office Narcotics Unit, Michael Whittington was discovered growing his own marijuana after a search warrant was executed at his home in Crystal Springs. During the search, back on the 23rd of July, officers found a large indoor and outdoor grow in containers that ranged from plant pots to buckets. Officials promptly placed him under arrest. On July 27th, he appeared in court and was sentenced to 10 years in the custody of the Mississippi Department of Corrections. All the evidence is going to be sent to the state crime lab, and they are on the lookout for felons in Copiah County. 30-plus felony cases are being presented to the grand jury by the Copiah Narcotics Unit. Coming up next, a conversation that I had earlier this week with Peter Costa, the market analyst with CNBC for many years and former governor with the New York Stock Exchange. That is next. This is Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi, presented by Community Bank.
Good morning from the Venom.
Your radio, on our app, or on your smart speaker. We're always free. Super Talk Mississippi, your home for Mornings with Richard Cross.
I'm in a hurry to get things done, oh I rushing till life's no fun. All I really gotta do is live and die, but I'm in a hurry and don't know why.
Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk Mississippi. A pleasure to be with you. Mornings is brought to you by Community Bank. When it comes to money, trust isn't automatic, it's earned. That's why Community Bank does things the old-fashioned way. When you come to us, we take the time to listen to you and discuss any questions you have. Whether you're saving, spending, or planning ahead, you'll find bankers who know the community because they're part of it. Community Bank, banking designed with you in mind. Visit us in person or online at communitybank.net. Pleased to welcome in my friend, Peter Costa, former governor at the New York Stock Exchange, market analyst on your television at CNBC, and all-around good guy. Peter, there is an old adage that the market always goes up. History tells us that it does. S&P's averaged roughly 10% a year through its life, though it is not a linear progression. It has some peaks and valleys. Is the market always going to go up? Because it is way up right now.
Well, Richard.
Hello, friend.
Good morning, and good morning to everyone out there in Mississippi and Alabama. But, sorry about that.
You can tell it's getting close to football season. Peter's got power T on his chest.
Power T, baby. And I saw the rankings came out yesterday, and Ole Miss is, 11? And Tennessee's
that would be 10.
10? Okay, well, that's good. Top 10. And what are they? They have 38 teams in the playoffs now, so I think everybody will, Missouri will end up making it. But, we digress.
Maybe even Tennessee will.
Oh, stop. Oh, God. Yeah, you kill me. Anyway, yes, the stock market will always go up. It'll never go down, and everyone will always make a ton of money. It's so boring that people actually believe that there's not some risk in the market right now, especially with the prices that you have. I'm a big PE ratio, price earnings ratio. I'm a huge fan of that. I think that gives you a good idea of when a company is overpriced. And if you start looking at the names that are up there, they're bordering on absurd price earnings ratios, absurd. So I do think that, at some point you'll have another pullback. To me, there's still the same problems when the market sold off and the tech stocks sold off 2 weeks ago. There's still the same problems. Is there going to be an oversupply? Is there going to be are we being too exuberant about the money that's being spent on AI? It just goes on and on and on. And I've been crowing about this for months, that when are they going to really get the return that they're expecting on the amount of money they're investing? To me, that's the key point. I think that's what every investor should think of. It's nice to ride a winner, but at some point you have to look at it and say, do I take my profits and pull back a little bit and then take another look? I mean, to me, I would just, if I was in the market in certain stocks, I'm in the market, but I'm like, my investments are all long term. I would think to take some money off the table right now. I think it's okay. I don't think you won't be mad at yourself if they go up another 5%. Most people will be because they're greedy. But the reality is, if you have a portfolio that's up 20 or 30% or 40%, whatever the number is, you might want to take some of that money off the table and maybe buy, a nice watch or season tickets to UT. I'm just giving you ideas, because they're not going to buy season tickets to Ole Miss, especially after Lane Train went down to Baton Rouge.
You can't buy season tickets for Ole Miss. They are sold out.
Yeah, same with UT. So, I mean, I think the whole SEC is.
Let me ask you this. There are all kinds of strategies that people use when investing. You have the day trader people that like to get in and out and in and out and in and out, and there's this old adage, you can't ever actually beat the market. You're better off long term. You just said a second ago, as an investor, you are a long-term investor. That's probably what most people are, even if it's only through their 401k or some sort of a retirement account. But if you were doing not day trading per se, but to your point just a second ago, you've got money in the market, you need to pull back. In terms of a strategy, could you look at a company like, NVIDIA? NVIDIA right now is trading at $211.94 a share. Would you look at a specific target number, knowing that the market is going to go up and down and say, I'm going to wait and see if it falls to 190 or 195 or 200 or whatever the number is. And when it hits that point, say, boom. And then I'm going to put a target when it reaches 250 or 300 or 350 or whatever, and then I'm going to pull back again. And then I'm going to wait for it. Is that a good way to go about this? Or is that just kind of an expanded version of day trading?
Well, it's an expanded version of day trading, but the thing with that is, and I've given lectures at colleges about this, that takes discipline. All right, you have a price point, an entry point, whatever it might be. Let's say with NVIDIA, maybe 180. All right, it will get down there. There'll be some miss in the earnings call, and generally these stocks, when they take a hit, it's usually big. So you got to figure that at some point you will have the opportunity to get in at 180. Now, you have to have a price point where you want to get out, but what ends up happening is you're looking at your 180 purchase and saying, well, it's traded at 235. I made 55 points on this. How much more can I make? Instead of following that discipline, you end up, waiting for it to go to 250 or whatever. And it might, but to me, I think that's a great strategy. It could be a very long term because you never know what's really going to happen with these stocks. The other thing is you have to have a downside, like a stop loss. We have to know that if you bought something at 185 and it continues to go down to 165, maybe you sell out of it. You take a big hit, but who knows where it's going to go. And then if it starts to rally again, you re-enter the market. So the thing is, you got to be disciplined, and that's a very hard thing for most people to do, to be disciplined. And I'm a perfect example of that. I'm not disciplined, but I have been, over the last 10 years. I needed to be. But prior to this last 10 years, I would have a winner in a stock and I'd say, this thing's going to 7, it's going to 80. And next thing you know, it's trading where I bought it and I had to sell it. So that's not discipline. That's just being stupid.
I had a fascinating conversation. We were flying home from vacation last week, and the lady that I was sitting next to owns a manufacturing company, and it has been very successful. And we were talking about kind of big picture business principles. It was one of those, sometimes you get on a plane and you don't talk to the person sitting next to you for the entirety of the flight, and sometimes you end up talking the entire time, and this ended up being the latter. And she talked about she said she was agnostic politically. And I think there are a lot of people in business that maybe are. Her larger point was, I don't really care whether Republicans or Democrats are in office if it's more mainstream. Because when they're mainstream, traditional political people, you have a pretty good understanding of what things are going to look like 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, even 10 years down the line. But in the current political environment, there is so much uncertainty that there's no way to forecast in terms of the future. Whether you're talking about putting together a supply chain, expanding your company, buying other companies, is that a reasonable sentiment across multiple business sectors, or would that have just been unique to manufacturing?
No, I think it's definitely across almost every business sector because, in the Reagan years, you knew what was going on. There was not a lot of uncertainty, and I'm not saying because of President Reagan. I'm just saying during that time frame, even during the Clinton years, which were very good economically, the amount of uncertainty was limited. There's always going to be uncertainty in business. You have to plan for that. So everybody, whenever you look at earnings reports and when they give you further, future guidance, it's a shot in the dark. They do know what they're looking at. They do know what their orders are coming in. They do know how well their businesses are doing, but it's still a shot in the dark because you never know what's going to happen. Lately, it's even more so because there are so many different geopolitical events that have impacted the supply chain and have impacted oil prices and impacted, the overall world economy, and you have, there's so much as far as, what your business is and how much you rely on what you take from other countries, what you import from other countries. And with Trump's tariffs, that's been a game changer as far as what companies can actually plan on, because if your expectation is you're going to pay X for products and things you need to produce in the U.S., and then tomorrow those tariffs are raised by 20% or they're dropped. So it's very, very hard to make those future predictions on what your business. It's not so much your business, but your profitability, because your business is going to be your business, and the U.S. economy is doing very well, no matter what you hear on MSNBC or whatever they call themselves now. The economy is doing well, and they're planning.
Let's press pause.
Yeah.
Let's press pause just for a second. Mornings with Richard Cross. We'll continue the conversation with Peter Costa on the other side of this timeout. MRC, presented by Community Bank. We're back with you right after this.
From the Seabrook team.
What are we going to do? Rise and shine with information and insight. Check it out. Mornings with Richard Cross. Super Talk Mississippi.
Welcome back. This is Mornings with Richard Cross. Don't forget the C Spire text line is open to you at 601-879-4395. C Spire, customer inspired. Peter Costa is my guest, former governor with the New York Stock Exchange, former market analyst with CNBC, not MSNBC, but CNBC, different division, same company. Let's talk about petroleum just for a moment. The great philosopher, you've heard me reference him before, Billy Bob Thornton, explained in great detail during Landman how heavily we rely on oil. He was having the conversation with the young attorney who was kind of bemoaning the environmental effects of oil, and he said, that's fine. What's your alternative? The truth of the matter is we don't have an alternative to oil. As we watch oil prices bounce about like a ping pong ball, what should we be focused on? Obviously, the ongoing issue in Iran, and I don't know what the end game is or what the finality looks like there. What are you concentrating on when you look at oil prices and the oil gas markets at a larger level?
Well, one of the things I like to look at is the alternative means of supply. And with Venezuela, I mean, it's a shaky situation, but I do believe that they will start producing oil in a major way, probably within the next 6 months. I think they've already started to rebuild a lot of that industry and fairly quickly. I mean, I understand that it's still a political nightmare, but I think when Exxon and Chevron and all the major oil players start reinvesting money there, and it's $1 or $2 billion or $3 billion to get some of these plants started, Venezuela is the largest known petroleum reserve in the world. So I do think that once Venezuela starts kicking in, Nigeria is a huge supplier as well. I mean, there are other alternatives, and the U.S. is exporting oil. So I think that a lot of the needs are being met, not all of them, because the price obviously still reflects that. But I think that as time goes on, the Straits of Hormuz become still important, but a little bit less important. And if they do end up building completing the pipeline across Saudi Arabia, which I think they're working on night and day, and the Saudis tend to get things done fairly quickly, that could really eliminate a lot of the pressure on the Straits, and also, resolving that situation where Iran and Oman, I think they're supposed to be now, they're trying to determine how much they're going to charge people for passing through the Straits. I mean, they're talking $2 million a ship. So if you think about that, that's $1, $1.50 a barrel added cost. So, wherever oil is, it's $1.50 too high, just considering that. But I think it's the alternative, not the alternative energy, because I think it's going to take, China's the only country that's been able to do it. But the U.S. and, a lot of the major industrial companies are going to have very, very hard time converting to fully natural renewables. I think it's a very long road. I think the Biden administration made a huge mistake, and it took us a long time to get out of what the Biden administration had done. But that's another argument.
Well, but I mean, this goes back to the conversation about uncertainty within manufacturing, uncertainty based on the political whims. I mean, we're 2 years and 3 months from another election, and we don't know who will be next. If there's a Republican that wins the presidency, then we're likely to continue to have policies where regulation is down and the oil industry can thrive. And if you end up with somebody who is either a mainstream Democrat or, God forbid, somebody that has ties to the DSA, then who knows what the energy policies might look like in the United States?
It would be, I'll say it now, and I'll say it every time I'm on the show, it would be a disaster to have. You know what? If you want to have an energy policy, I understand that. I mean, every country should. But the reality is we suck on the teat of oil and gas. And no matter what you try to move out of it, it's very, very hard. Even if they want to force it on everyone, it's still not going to work. And the cost of electricity and the cost of doing this is going to be worse than anything happening in the Middle East. So to me, when you have a naturally plentiful supply of an item that the world needs, why cut it off? I mean, at some point, maybe in 30 or 40 years, we're going to be, everything's going to be nuclear energy or whatever, and we might even find another alternative. But right now, you can't change the policy as far as what we do. A lot of people like driving electric vehicles. I understand that, as far as pollution and whatnot. But the reality is, things work better when you have natural gas and when you have oil.
Peter, it's almost like you were looking at the text line. Tim in Tupelo C-Spire text line 601-879-4395 says, does Peter have an opinion on SMR technology, small modular nuclear reactors? It's something that I don't know enough to really be educated on it, but I'm wildly fascinated by the idea that, manufacturing facilities, if you go really crazy, perhaps individual homeowners could have some sort of a modular nuclear reactor that is sustainable. Now, obviously, there's some level of danger and risk that exists there. Do you buy into the companies that are actively working on this? I've had experts say, hey, look, best case scenario, we're a decade away from this being reliable technology, probably more like 30 years, 40 years down the road. Are you actively interested in companies that are exploring nuclear power options?
Yes, I think that's a great option. One of the problems, though, with that, and it's a safety issue, obviously, but it's more about supply of the uranium and the fuel. I mean,
well, we can just go to Iran for that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the U.S. doesn't supply. I mean, Russia has a tremendous. I know you're terrible, but
I know
Russia has a tremendous supply of uranium, and so does the Ukraine. So, I mean, there are supply points, but that would be my concern. I think that technology will advance. I think 10 years probably will be right about. I mean, the technology is already there. They put nuclear power in submarines. So if you can do that in safety, you can probably figure out how to do it in not so much in homeowners, because I think the expense might be just too much. But I think that if you had smaller units that would provide power for these data centers, I mean, you're looking at these AI centers that are going to build small power plants to supply the electricity so it doesn't take anything from the grid. They're going to spend $1 billion or $1.5 billion in Louisiana building their own power station, which is going to be supplied with natural gas, which, obviously is a fossil fuel. So the whole thing with these tech guys and their whole, make everything fossil fuel free is a bunch of crap. But anyway, I think that they will. I think when big tech really realizes the advantages of having something like that, I think a lot of money will go into it, and I do think it's going to be a very viable source. I really do. All
right, last thing, we got a minute until the break. You mentioned data centers just a second ago. They have, in some places, New York in particular, become faux pas. Moratorium on any new data center construction, stop the construction. Mississippi has put up a sign at the state line that says, y'all come to data centers. Not everybody loves that idea. In terms of welcoming data centers, construction of data centers, is Mississippi in the right, or is a place like New York that goes, no, we're not going to do this anymore in the right?
No, I think that states like Mississippi, Ohio, Louisiana, Arizona, they're going to be successful. But at the end of the day, it's the construction jobs and it's the supplying of the equipment and items in those data centers that's going to be the money. Because after the centers are open and they're running, there's 200 people in there. And even if they're making $200,000 a year in Mississippi, which is great money, it's not all that much of an impact on the economy. I mean, it will impact the economy because they pay taxes, but a lot of states are foregoing those taxes. So to me, I don't have a problem with them. My only problem with them is not the electricity, it's the water. And I think that a lot of those data centers are trying to use recycled water and not impact the local water. But I do think that's a major issue. I think it's a major issue in this country. So
golf courses use more water than data centers do.
Yeah, no, I know. But,
yeah.
But they still use a lot. And it takes a lot to cool those buildings. And, they're going to work it out. And I don't have a problem with them. I just don't think, as far as construction jobs and, all that, that's great. But after they're done, that's it.
We'll leave it there. Peter, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good morning.
You come first for news. Fast and free. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Back with you. Welcome in once again. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi. Thanks for joining us on this Friday morning, the 7th of August. Glad to have you along. Mornings is presented by Community Bank, online at communitybank.net. Ever notice how some places still know your name? At Community Bank, that's how banking works. We're a bank that knows community because we live here. When you walk in, you're more than an account number. No matter what your banking needs here at Community Bank, you'll talk to real people who care about your goals. Community Bank, a local bank built on relationships. Stop by your neighborhood location or learn more at communitybank.net, rooted in our community. It's time right now for your Mississippi Lottery update, brought to you by the Mississippi Lottery online, mslottery.com. That's mslottery.com. There was no Powerball jackpot winner on Wednesday night, but a ticket purchased in Flowood at the Quick Trip there matched 4 or 5 white balls plus the Powerball to win $50,000. One white ball away from that big jackpot. But it all sets up for a big drawing on Saturday night. $856 million, the estimated jackpot. The estimated cash value for that drawing, $372 million. Mega Millions, you got a drawing tonight coming up. It's a $70 million drawing with an estimated cash value of $29.7 million. Be sure to download the Mississippi Lottery app onto your phone. It is free and it makes it easy when you're ready to check those numbers. Just scan the barcode and it does all the rest for you. That is your Mississippi Lottery update online at mslottery.com. Time now for your morning sports update, brought to you by Pearl River Resort, online at pearlriverresort.com. Pearl River Resort, your home for casino thrills, family fun, and live entertainment. Lots going on at Pearl River Resort. Don't forget, you can book your tee time to play at Dancing Rabbit, the Dancing Rabbit Golf Club, 2 18-hole championship courses, the Oaks and the Azaleas. DancingRabbitGolf.com is the website. Dancing Rabbit, part of Pearl River Resort. Ole Miss opened its camp season yesterday. The Rebels roll into the 2026 season as a legitimate contender for the national championship. They were picked to finish third in the SEC by the media at SEC Media Days a couple of weeks ago. The coaches poll has just come out. Ole Miss is the preseason number 10 team in the country. This year, the Rebels are unquestionably going to have a large target on their back, and they open the season on a Sunday night in Nashville against the Louisville Cardinals. Pete Golding says that his focus right now is on getting better. His team's got a lot of that to do, but also on creating adversity and making sure that they are prepared for the challenges ahead. Golding said this after the first practice of camp, the first official practice of camp. I've never met a true competitor who I think has true competitive character that talks about anxiety. I just haven't done that. I'm not talking about bad stuff or anything else, but it's just no. Go work your butt off. Practice hard. Prepare the right way, and let's go play. If we don't contest every play and do what we're supposed to do, then we shouldn't win, and we probably won't win in this league. But if we do what we're supposed to do Monday through Friday, then on Saturday, you're probably going to make the play that you should. To me, it's all about preparation. It's time for people to stop talking and put the work in to do the things that we are supposed to do to put ourselves in a situation to be the best that we could be, successful at the end of the year. Mississippi State also opened its camp, first practice yesterday. Jeff Levy was enthusiastic about competition at multiple positions on the field. He's got a rejuvenated roster after the transfer portal offseason and also a rejuvenated coaching staff. The roster was put together. We'll see if those guys can make plays on the field. Mississippi State does have a star returning at quarterback. Young quarterback, but a returning starter. A lot of hype around Kamario Taylor in the offseason, but as football season approaches, the focus is shifting as the young leader looks to make a leap for himself and for his team. About his quarterback, Jeff Levy said about Taylor, He's really hard on himself, which I absolutely love. He coaches himself in a great way, immediately trying to fix things when he hasn't gotten it right. That's what you love about him. There's a constant conversation. He's got a ton of work to do, but you talk about intent, focus, everything you want from that position, and put it all in to be able to execute. He does it. That's Jeff Levy talking about his quarterback, Kamario Taylor. For the rest of the show this morning, Jeremy England joined us earlier this week. We'll have that conversation. Josh Harkins and I spent time on Monday remembering our friend and colleague, Lance Tolbert. Attorney General Lynn Fitch announced her candidacy for governor earlier this week. Got that conversation for you. And also Lieutenant Governor Delbert Hosemann. All of that coming up over the next couple of hours. Thanks for being with us on this Friday morning. It's Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Cause a free wind is blowing through your hair, and the days surround your daylight there. Seasons crying, no despair. Alligator lizards in the air, in the
It was previously recorded.
Wake up! Rise and shine!
Start your day right. Mornings with Richard Cross
Nice early morning surprise.
on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Amarillo by morning, up from San Antonio.
Good morning, and once again, welcome in. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi, presented by Community Bank. Glad to welcome in this morning my friend, Senator Jeremy England. He represents District 51. He's chair of the Elections Committee, vice chair of Ports and Marine Resources. Jeremy, always good to visit with you. How are you, my friend?
Yeah, hey, Richard, good morning. Doing great. And if I can have just a second, I want to tell my mama happy birthday. It's her birthday today, and she's listening in.
Happy birthday, Mama.
That's right.
I love that. Do you want to sing to her?
No, I don't think I'll sing to her. I think I'll do your audience a favor by that. But maybe I'll sing to her later. If she wants me to, I will.
You've got the little baby cowbells over your left shoulder. Do you want to, like, ring a cowbell for her birthday as a tribute to her, or...
Yeah, I tell you what, we'll give one.
You know what? That's really not necessary. That was more just a talking point than actually wanting you to do that. But
well, look, now I'll be famous for ringing a cowbell for Richard Cross. So that's the thing.
There you go. I've got one over my right shoulder that was a gift as well. Hey, always a pleasure to be with you. We were talking a little bit before the break about the Nolan Wells investigation. As is frequently the case when a big story kind of grabs our attention, after a little while, everybody tends to kind of move on. We got a message, though, just a second ago that said was in Ocean Springs over the weekend, and everywhere I went, restaurants, coffee shops, just milling about. People locally were still talking about this. What's your experience on the coast in terms of the conversation around this investigation and this case at this point?
Yeah, so obviously this was a local tragedy that immediately, a lot of people went out looking after the 4th of July for Nolan Wells, who we all learned was missing. We all have friends in common with the parents. So there's still that tragedy level that we're still hurt that we lost a member of our community. But of course, this outside noise that has kind of made it into something that I don't think it is, or that it certainly doesn't need to be, is very concerning for our community. Because look, we're a very diverse community down here in Jackson County. We get along. We understand that our DA and our sheriff are great people. They're going to do their investigation as they should, and we have confidence in them. So most of this stuff that we're hearing, that there was some nefarious activity, that'll come out. That's getting investigated. And Richard, look, I think you know this. There are so many people that are just sending reports in of things that they see on social media or whatever. If there was any reason to make an arrest for the death of Nolan Wells, it would have happened by now. And if that comes up at any point in time during the investigation, it'll happen. Otherwise, we'll see this go to the grand jury and let the grand jury make that decision. And I think that's good. As you mentioned, it's kind of died down a little bit, which is also very good because we want to let that process work out.
One of the things that to me was most sad, obviously the loss of life is at the top of that list. So tragic to see a young man in the still kind of the dawn of his life with everything in front of him that is no longer with us, and that's the lead for this story. But I thought it was really disappointing the way that law enforcement was vilified. By all accounts, there were half a dozen, maybe more, law enforcement agencies that were involved immediately. And because of the reputation that some bad law enforcement entities have gotten, it's like everybody gets painted into the same picture as, oh, they're incompetent, oh, they don't know what they're doing. And it just doesn't feel like, based on all the information we've got, that has been the case at all. You've had the Jackson County Sheriff's Department leading the way. They've worked in conjunction with MBI and with the FBI and with other law enforcement agencies along the coast and volunteer organizations. It feels like they've done everything they can to investigate this with as much depth and detail as possible. Am I missing anything there?
No, Rich, I think you're exactly right. Look, right whenever we found out that Nolan Wells was missing, the sheriff set up a mobile station right there at a marina in Ocean Springs when his body was recovered and brought in. And look, it was recovered very quickly, and I think that's a great thing. I was so worried that these parents weren't going to get even that kind of closure on this. And so, of course, the sheriff, looked over the body and said, look, I don't see anything that's suggests any foul play here. And he's been attacked for that, but that's a perfectly reasonable thing to say, especially with everybody trying to turn this into a big issue. And look, one thing I keep in mind, Richard, the islands are a dangerous place. If you get out there and you get in the wrong current and you're in the water, it's very easy for a great swimmer to drown out there. And I think we all really hope that happens, and I think that's what happened, because otherwise you've got like a Hollywood villain level group of high school kids here in Ocean Springs that are doing all of this perfect cover up that's just a Nancy Grace novel waiting to happen. And I just don't think that's the case. And the reason I don't think that is because I have that kind of confidence in our sheriff and in our district attorney in the great investigation that they have going on here.
Where does this go moving forward? So
I hope cooler heads prevail. Of course, we've seen what happens in other states whenever an event happens and people attack the law enforcement, and then you have riots and things like that. What I'm telling people, Richard, is look, we can break that mold here in Mississippi. We don't have to do that. We can look at this for the facts that it is. We can have confidence in the people that we elect to do the jobs that they do. We can ignore the outside noise and understand that we all live in this great community together. And come together after that, allow this family to mourn. We can mourn with them for the loss of their son. I mean, that's every parent's nightmare. Let them go through that, but then come out of this and not think that what we see in Ferguson, Missouri and in Baltimore, that's the norm. We can break that. We don't have to do it. And I would ask people to listen to what I say when I say that, and let's not go down that path.
Jeremy, would there have been an opportunity for the Wells family to use local legal representation if they had wanted to, as opposed to the lightning rod that is Ben Crump and Al Sharpton coming in, seemingly more interested in a press conference than any real answers? Because I don't blame the family at all for getting legal representation in this case. You want to know what happened, you want answers, and you want the truth. Is there a local law firm or multiple local law firms that you think would have been willing to work with the family beyond a national, air quotes, civil rights attorney coming in?
Oh yes, absolutely. And look, we have a great legal community here on the coast. We have a great legal community here in Mississippi. But from what I understand, Richard, either Ben Crump's office or somebody from his family reached out to Nolan Wells' mom and recommended him, and she was going through this immediate grieving process. I mean, because they reached out pretty quick to her to grab a hold of this and do that. And I think she saw that as, okay, hey, this is my opportunity to get in. I've got somebody that will represent me and do this well. Look, I don't have any confidence in Ben Crump. I think that he's only interested in making Mississippi look bad and in making our community look bad in an effort to get the publicity out of this. I think he's already shown that he'll just dump cases and leave clients kind of in the, go find out on your own. And look, we haven't heard from him since this autopsy report, and he's apparently been receiving hundreds of thousands of tips. So again, I'll say if anything nefarious was happening here, or if anything had happened, and there was good evidence of that, Ben Crump would be back on TV telling us about that, and we're not hearing from him. So maybe that's just his MO.
Do you anticipate that we are going to see or be able to read the autopsy report that was performed by the state medical examiner? We know that has now been turned over to the Jackson County grand jury. They will review that and see if there is anything that needs to happen on the legal front going forward. Do you anticipate that ever is going to become part of the public domain?
So that will depend on how this filing goes. Look, back in 2021, we passed a bill in the legislature that made these autopsy reports confidential. So that's a very recent thing. That was whenever there was a murder-suicide investigation going on in Meridian. I think it was a hot topic of a podcast. So we passed that bill. But look, the family can choose to release it, and those things can also be requested, and a court can order them to be released. And this may be one of those instances where that happens, just to show that, because one of the things you can ask them for, Richard, is to make sure that you have public trust in the investigation and that things happen. So it could happen. It's my understanding the investigation or the autopsy report is complete. I have confidence that will be looked at. I have confidence that any material that they have will be turned over to this independent investigator. But these things take time. These aren't, Netflix series where you have 30 minutes at a time and you're trying to fit everything in. But that process is working. I would hope that if this shows that nothing happened, that it would be put out there by the DA or even by the family. Nolan Wells' family could say, look, we've had our chance to look at this. We've talked with the DA. We feel confident this happens. And I hope they get that kind of confidence in the truth out of this.
Certainly so. And worth noting, the grand jury operates on a set schedule. It's not something where you snap your fingers and you have the convening of a grand jury. Jeremy England is my guest. This is Morning.
Good morning from the
outdoorsman, collector, hunter, fisherman, or just someone who loves finding unique items at a great price, you need to check out this special online event auction. Y&L Auction has gathered all the items from the legendary outdoor store Paul's Mart in the Delta and put it up for an online-only auction. There'll be a lot of vintage fishing and hunting gear, outdoor clothing, archery equipment, muzzle loaders, jewelry, shoes, cutlery, signs, toys, lunchboxes, so much more. This is your chance to find those hard-to-find items you just don't see every day. And you can bid from the comfort of your home. Bidding is going on now through the end of the day today. You can start shopping now at yandlauction.com. In the aftermath of losing someone, it's funny, there are random things that make you think of him. And Senator Josh Harkins, you grew up with Lance Talbert. As I read about an online auction where there would be muzzle loaders and fishing and hunting gear and outdoor clothing and archery equipment, I thought, Lance might would have checked that out.
He would be bidding.
He just might would have done so. Senator Josh Harkins is my guest. He represents Rankin County. That's District 20. He's chair of the Senate Finance Committee. And not only was currently a friend of Lance Tolbert, but is someone who grew up with him. And you were the first person that I talked to on Tuesday morning. You called me, and I appreciate so very much you doing that. You didn't want the news to be real. No. I certainly didn't want the news to be real, but the news is very real. We've lost a friend, a coworker, and in your case, somebody that you had known for a very long time.
Absolutely. And, let me say first off, when I listened to your Wednesday morning intro, I think, I found myself riding in the car listening to it, and I was just nodding my head. I mean, for the short period of time that y'all got to know Lance, you nailed him. It was eerily funny how I was thinking the same thing. Some of the things you were saying, I mean, I pulled my phone up and went through our texts, and my God, you wouldn't believe the text messages and the comments that we went back and forth, and the things that Lance would text about and just make comments on. He had a width of for a sense of humor that was rivaled by not very many people. His sense of humor was something that was just something to behold. And every conversation I'd have with him, whether I came in here to do an interview or whatever, we talked for two minutes in between a break. I mean, right down the hallway, we yuck it up for a minute or two, and half of it was filled with chuckles or belly laughing. I mean, he was always finding a way to make you smile, make you laugh, and just to bring up an old story or something. It didn't take Lance very long to get the story moving towards humor and laughter, and it was always a joy to be around Lance and to talk to him, and you were definitely going to miss him.
Josh, I think most people know that Lance was a college baseball player. He began at Auburn. He finished his career at Ole Miss and was an accomplished pitcher. But I think there are a lot of people that don't know about who he was or what he was in terms of a high school athlete. You were a teammate and a friend growing up.
He started baseball at 471. Let's make no mistake. He started baseball down on the fields off 471 and the mosquitoes and the pine trees down there in the swamp. And I mean, he was all the young people think the Dandy Dozen's something new. Lance was a Dandy Dozen back in '93. He was an incredible athlete. He was the size he was last week when he was 9 years old. I mean, the guy was absolutely a monster. When you went 8-9-year-old baseball, when you're sitting there at the plate and you're 4 feet and you got almost a 6 foot guy throwing their mound throwing heat. He was intimidating. He could absolutely blow the ball by you. He could, batting practice was a joke.
Let me interrupt, because everybody that has played youth baseball has faced that guy. Yeah. There's the one kid at 10 years old, at 12 years old, who's more developed than everybody else, who hits home runs when nobody else does, who throws it harder. But so many times that guy is at his peak, the peak of his athletic career at 12 years old.
He was just taking off.
That wasn't the case.
No, he was something to watch. Great pitcher all through high school. Followed him, on his journey from Auburn all the way to Ole Miss, and just super proud of him. I mean, great football player. He played quarterback. I think he focused this last year on baseball, and he was a spectacular athlete. Still looked like he could probably go throw 5-6 innings today. I mean, it was amazing. Ryan and I were talking, and he's like, "Man, how do you stay so thin? And you look like you're just in incredible shape." And
it's not because of an incredibly healthy diet.
No, that's what Ryan was saying. The guy did not eat healthy, but he looked like he could still go. I mean, it was amazing.
Yeah. I talked to his sister Brandy on Saturday at the funeral. And I was struck by something that she said. She's emotional about it, but was holding things together. And she said, "Richard," she said, "the world feels like a more boring place without Lance. He was such a big personality, and his personality filled the room." And she said, "I think at least right now, that's what I miss the most, is that big, larger-than-life personality."
Yeah, Lance, you kind of touched on it Wednesday morning. Lance was a big brother. and loved his sister, loved Ryan and his niece and nephew, just adored them, talked about them a lot. His mom, just Miss Ann, my heart hurts for her. But, Lance was part of the fabric of a lot of people's lives that, they look to for comedic relief, for just, conversation, for, being a big brother, being a son. His dad, Larry, I know Lance visited with him last week, and Lance was just that guy that kind of took care of everybody. He was always in the lives of those he loved, and, I think people... you're talking about all the text messages you're getting from people. I think that's the part about talk radio that you love, is that, you're driving down the road, you get to know these people, you feel like they're your friend, even though you may have never met Lance. You may have never seen him. You don't even know what he looks like. When you see his picture in the paper, you're like, oh, that's Lance. But you feel like you know him. You're listening to people riding down the road. You're nodding your head in agreement. Sometimes you're yelling at the radio. Sometimes you're laughing at the radio. You're crying at the radio. These personalities come into our lives, and we realize how precious they are. And, it's moments like this that you take a step back and reflect and think about, man, I hate that we're not going to have that part of our life anymore, or we're not going to have that interaction day to day. We got the memories, but it's a lesson that we should take our friendships and our relationships a little deeper, and show appreciation to people, and tell people how much we care about them, think about them, and how much they mean to us.
Yeah. You've been fact-checked on the C-Spire text line. He said he couldn't have spoken to Lance during breaks because Lance was texting me at that point. Oh, that's pretty good. Yeah. I'll get a message that says, last thing that Lance and I texted about was that old smoke alarm battery. We're talking about Robert Johnson and his security alarm that beeps when he's on in the background. And Thomas says, I'm at least 500 texts short for the week. I don't know when Lance ever slept. He didn't sleep a lot. Yeah. That felt to be something that we had in common. Look, I mean, you mentioned just a second ago nieces and nephews, and I bumped into a friend that I graduated high school with and played football with, who was in the line to see Lance. And I said, Chris, what are you doing here? And he's lived in the Rankin County area for a number of years now, and he said that his son had grown up with Ryan and Brandy's son, mm-hmm. and had played soccer together, and been at baseball fields. And he said, Lance was at every game that he could possibly be at. He said he was a fixture alongside his mother Ann at his nephew and niece's sporting events. Oh, absolutely. Well, I mean, I think Lance loved living through his niece and nephew, watching them play sports, and they are, as you would expect, great athletes. Going to be incredible young kids to watch grow up. But I think that's where he got a lot of joy in life, was watching them and just, following them and going with his mom to watch them play. I mean, they were at all the games. I would see them at school, at events, and so I know he was very, very proud of them. Yeah. Visiting with Senator Josh Harkins. He represents District 20. That is in Rankin County. He was a lifelong friend of our colleague and our friend, the late Lance Tolbert. We'll continue to honor his memory and might get into some legislative business on the other side of this break as well. It's Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi, presented by Community Bank. We're back with you right after this.
From the Seabrook.
So much of the discussion around Lance Tolbert has been about text messages. He was a frustratingly, at times, frequent texter. And I think The biggest frustration was those stupid green bubble text messages. He refused to get an iPhone. He even recently got a new phone from our friends at C Spire and stuck with the Android. He's like, all right, well, I've been with it this far. I can't bail on it now. What kind of a person would that? Wouldn't be very loyal. But I got to share a message with you because this, I think, kind of summed up his sense of humor. Recently, Josh, we had a guest that was on with us at the in the 8 o'clock hour. And he sent me a message that said he has a hard stop at 8:32 a.m. In 51 years and 11 months, I've never heard someone say, gotta get gone at 2 minutes after the bottom of the hour. Oh, crap, it's 8:32. I gotta get out of here. Cool, brah. I might have edited a couple of things within that message, but you get the sentiment. Yeah. Who's got to be somewhere at exactly 8:32?
And it probably bugged him for about 3 more days, and I'm sure there were more texts about it.
Well, and this is absolutely inside radio and behind the scenes, but you know that a lot of our guests appear on video calls. Mm-hmm. And so when one segment ends, let's say at 7:31, 7:32, we'll go to break, and Lance would give the guest a heads up. Now, if I were sitting in the chair, Will East were sitting in the chair, he'd say, hey, we'll be back in about 5 minutes. No. Lance was precise. He said, hey, we will be back at exactly 7:37 and 37 seconds. So you got time to go warm up your coffee. What?
Yeah.
Let me make sure my watch is synced up with yours.
Look, I think, and they hit on it. Let me say, Caleb did an incredible job at the service, eulogizing Lance. It was another...
Caleb Sailors, who works on the SuperTalk Mississippi news team and is also a minister, delivered the address at the funeral.
Absolutely, and did a wonderful job. Mm-hmm. What people don't... I mean, I guess you could kind of deduce by listening to the comments about Lance was smart. Lance was not just some, oaf that was an athlete in high school. Lance was brilliant. He was smart. He was inquisitive. And you talked about all of his career trajectory was, it was almost like he wanted to stay in long enough where he could learn everything about something and then move on to something else. And the guy was, as Chris Sarton so eloquently stated in his Facebook post, Lance was a Renaissance man. He was, he was a unique individual that was inquisitive, that asked questions, that wanted to learn more, that was never just satisfied with hearing something and moving on. He wanted to investigate, and I would get text messages in the middle of the day during the session, what's going on with this or what's happening here. He wanted to know more. He was like a sponge with information, and sometimes it would lead to some interesting conversations, and a text message in the morning like, hey, I was on YouTube last night and I saw this, and then God, AI came along, and then you get pictures of he'd send me a picture of the Ayatollah and walking a cat, or just some of the most incredibly, just like, what are you doing, Lance?
So you got the Iranian?
Oh yes, I got all that, and oh God, it was just so funny. But I think more importantly, the point that Caleb said, and I think it's really important that we know is, and if we say what we say as Christians and believers, part of us in the sadness and everything with this, but we have to be happy that Lance is where he is now. He's in a better place, and ultimately at the end of the day, that's comforting to know that's where Lance knew where he was going, and I was so proud of Caleb and the job he did, and it's amazing how you knew Lance for a snapshot in time compared to some of us. But I saw my friends sitting there nodding their head while he was talking. He was talking about Lance and the things he did. Getting out of an intersection and pump faking a ball like he's going to throw it at a car down the street. That's Lance, and just. So many things about him. It warmed my heart, and it made me really, in a difficult situation, to put a smile on my face. And I'm so glad that he did that yesterday and was able to encapsulate Lance to everybody that was there, and there was a crowd of people, and it was I know it made his family feel good to see all these people there. I had a ton of classmates that came in for it. I had some that weren't able to be there but were texting during the day, and there was a lot of love being poured on Miss Ann and Larry and Brandy and the family. So,
we get the biblical imagery of heaven with the streets of gold and the crystal sea, but I think a lot of us have our own imagery in our head of what heaven may be, because it's described as this perfect place beyond imagination. And so we kind of go to whatever our perfect place is, whether it's, an Augusta National that goes on forever, or it's, the perfect baseball stadium. For Lance, his image of heaven would probably have been a deer camp with dogs, and the ability to just soak in the beauty of nature around him, and so I hope that's what he's got. I have
no doubt he has not made it past the gate yet. He's probably still in deep conversation with the man sitting there.
Especially if it's a cash register right there. I'm not making light of that, but his ability to strike up conversations with those who are working behind the counter at convenience stores. For the longest time, I thought he was joking.
No,
because he would send me, my Indian buddy behind the register at the Quick Mart on Fannin Street. And I was like, oh yeah, sure. And then that was true.
Serious. Yeah.
That was true.
Lance never met a stranger. That's the one thing he could strike up a conversation no matter what room you put him in. He felt comfortable in.
I shared this on Wednesday, and I don't think I'm breaking any trust by doing so, because some of you have asked, and whether it's morbid curiosity or genuine concern, there are people that have said, hey, what happened? Family shared this with me, and I feel comfortable sharing it with you. They are not having an autopsy performed for Lance, but family has had conversations with medical personnel based on how they found him and the way that it appears that he very peacefully died. They believe that he had a massive heart attack.
Yeah.
What most people would describe as a widow maker, whether it was exactly that or not, I don't know. But the family is comfortable in... His mother shared this with me, and I think it's okay to share this. He had, we told you, he'd been working in the yard, and he was sitting in a chair on the porch, the same chair that he always sat in. He had his phone in his hand, was watching videos on YouTube or Instagram or whatever, and was throwing the ball with his dogs. That was his routine. And when his mom came back out, it looked like he was asleep, and she tried to wake him up. And he didn't respond, and she kind of nudged him, and then she called friends and medical professionals, and he was in the exact same position when she had last seen him, with his hands in his lap, the video on his phone still playing, his legs crossed, and his two beloved dogs sitting right there at his feet. But his head was slumped over as if he had taken a nap, and it was just over.
Yeah. It was peaceful. I think is the point that they're wanting us to know.
51, almost 52, is so incredibly too young and too soon. But if you got to go, I'm not so sure that's not the way to go.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I think it's the point of why they, shared that with us, I think, was to let us know that he was at peace.
Yeah.
And, that's at some level it should provide comfort at some point. I know it doesn't make anything feel better today, but it's the point you're making is too young. I mean, he was probably 2 weeks away from his birthday. I think his birthday is coming up in August, and man,
Lance never took any time off, Josh. I mean,
No.
he worked and he worked and he worked. He worked 6 days a week, but doggone it if on my calendar he had not taken off his birthday week and was going to have some time just to unwind and unplug.
Yep.
I'm going to keep Josh through the break. We're going to switch to some legislative conversation coming up, but let's just put a bow on it by saying this. To his mother, Ann, to his father, Larry, to his sister, Brandy, and brother-in-law, Ryan, to his niece and nephew, to all his friends and all of his family, we're going to continue to remember Lance. We're going to continue to think fondly of him. We offer you our most sincere condolences, and we wish nothing more than God's grace to fill all of your hearts.
Amen.
More coming up with you. It's Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Good morning from the
Filibuster. Just everything you need to know to start your day smarter. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Sun coming up over New York City. School bus driver in a traffic jam, staring at the faces.
This one is normally reserved for Wednesday. Well, I don't know if you get up early enough to normally listen to this program, but we do have a little thing, just giving you a heads up, called Country Music Wednesdays.
Why does it have to be limited to Wednesdays?
It doesn't. It doesn't. But it is exclusive on Wednesdays. We can sprinkle in the country music on Wednesday, and this was one of the bangers that Lance would go to.
Oh, I know.
So, I guess you get up early enough now that there's a newborn around.
Yes.
But Senator Josh Harkins is my guest. We have been laughing a bit and maybe going through a little bit of public catharsis after the loss of our friend Lance Tolbert. There's no easy way to transition, so I'm just going to kind of make a jump cut here, if you don't mind, and talk professional work just for a second. You are on this redistricting committee that the Lieutenant Governor has put together. So we got a Senate redistricting committee. There's a House redistricting committee. Everybody's looking about redistricting. At some point, all of you have to come together. Where are we in the redistricting conversation, recognizing that it's kind of a three-pronged conversation, that there's legislative redistricting, Supreme Court redistricting, and then also congressional redistricting? Yeah. All of those topics are on the table.
Yeah, so the joint committee will actually meet today at 2 o'clock.
Okay.
There's a formation meeting that the joint committee of the House and Senate members of the redistricting committee will meet and discuss kind of plans.
Is there a chair of that?
We'll elect a chair. I think it may flip back and forth. One time a House will be the chair. I think next time the Senate's chair. I'm not sure how that works, but we'll get a chair between the two and discuss meetings. I think there's a plan to have meetings across the state, or hearings, to allow public comment. And we will meet to discuss redistricting and what that's going to look like. Whether you go back to the 22 maps that we adopted, or do you just redistrict altogether under the new provisions after the Calais case? So we will meet to discuss that today, and I don't think there's anything that's going to be done on congressional right now. We've already had the primary election. I think it's probably going to be into the future. Maybe gets addressed in the session, maybe. But legislative and Supreme Court does impact the elections coming up in 27.
Right.
And you need to have those districts, if you're going to do new districts, if you're going to redistrict based on the Supreme Court ruling, you need to have those in place before qualifying, I would think. It would be my
which begins January 1st.
January 1st, January 2nd, whatever. It may fall on a weekend, but it starts the 1st of January, runs through February 1st. And so having those new districts in place beforehand is important, so you know what district you're running in and who potentially, if you're maybe running and you think you want to run against somebody, you need to make sure they're still in your district.
Let me ask you this. You guys and gals in the legislature don't always move at the same pace that much of Mississippi would like to see, but with an expedited timeline here, I mean, are you about to be meeting a lot? Because, I mean,
I would assume you'd have to have some special meetings in September, I guess August, September, and October. I mean, you've got to have the hearings. I think you have to have the hearings. I'm not exactly sure what the constitutional ruling is on how you proceed in a redistricting, but that's what we're going to discuss today to find out what's necessary and go through those steps and then come up with a plan. And I would assume you'd have to have the governor call a special session to do a redistricting.
Does it feel like that's an early December thing?
I would believe so. It may be sooner. I don't know when. It just depends on when we can get everything. I mean, I think we'll know more after today. We'll have a little bit better kind of roadmap of what's going to have to happen in order to get to that point. There'll have to be consultation with the lieutenant governor and speaker and the governor, and probably have a special session before in December, I guess, would be the latest you'd have to have it, so you could adopt it and have those lines drawn in the system. I think there are some concerns on timing with the Secretary of State system on actually getting the maps installed. So
right.
There's a lot of pieces of the puzzle that have to be put together to make this work. But when you redistrict also the Supreme Court districts, that in transportation, the Public Service Commission, all run under those lines. So there's a lot involved and a lot to have to work through.
We're just scratching the surface on that topic.
Yep.
We will dig deeper on another day. Josh, I really appreciate you coming in today.
Thank you, Richard. It was good to see you this weekend, and the SuperTalk family. We appreciate it.
Mornings with Richard Cross, 8 o'clock hour is on the way. My guest has been Senator Josh Harkins. He represents District 20, that is Rankin County, but today here in less of his role as a senator and more of his role as a friend to our friend, the late Lance Tolbert. Thanks for joining us. Today is Tuesday, August 4th, 2026. This is Mornings with Richard Cross, presented by Community Bank. Glad to be with you on a beautiful day across the state of Mississippi. Yesterday, there was a significant press conference in North Mississippi. We told you a little bit about this earlier today. Operation Muddy Waters, a joint law enforcement operation. When I say joint, a lot of entities were involved. An operation that was led by the Attorney General's office, and Attorney General Lynn Fitch joins me this morning. Over 60 arrests made yesterday in a statewide child exploitation crackdown.
Good morning. Yes.
Good morning to you. Thanks for coming in.
Absolutely. It was quite the operation, bringing all the state, federal, local law enforcement partners together to protect our children from these predators. These are sex offenders out there. They're looking to leverage our children. And so we're able to all come together, find these criminals, make over 60 arrests before they committed harm to our children.
I was talking with somebody on your team yesterday, and I said to them, you know, God bless you for doing this and for all of the agencies were involved, but it's got to be hard to wake up every day and go, okay, what are we doing today in terms of child exploitation? You said to me just a second ago before we came on the air, once you see this, you can't unsee it.
You cannot. And you see that these children are being taken advantage of. The exploitation, AI makes it much more challenging. But again, when you see everyone come together as a unified front, that sends a strong message to these predators. Don't do that in Mississippi. We're going to arrest you if you do. We're going to prosecute you, and we're going to hold you accountable for doing that. And yesterday, and during the operation, we talked about sextortion, and the teams are so amazing that they came in and they stopped a sextortion act before it ever got too far. And so, again, finding ways to protect our children is what we're doing, and we're doing it every single day.
How do you coordinate so many entities on a single investigation that I'm assuming needs a level of secrecy, needs a level of kind of being undercover? And you've got dozens of local law enforcement agencies, state-level law enforcement agencies, federal-level law enforcement agencies all involved. How do you coordinate that?
It takes months of planning. You do a lot of data sharing. You do a lot of surveillance. You do a lot of analytical work to determine where these sex offenders are, what kind of platforms they're on. So you're always compiling the data, and then you get ready, and then you move forward with the operation. And that's what shows a unified front. I mean, everybody is not territorial. Everybody is in there to do the right thing, and again, to go after these criminals. So it was a big day, and we'll continue to investigate because we still have some more warrants out to go after these predators. Well,
I was going to ask you that. What does the next step in this look like? Because when we visited last, you were talking about operations that were ongoing and arrests that were being made. I'm assuming this doesn't just end because yesterday was kind of a trophy day.
It does not. I mean, we'll continue with that operation as long as we find warrants that need to be put out there, or arrests that need to be made, or protection of our children. And then we always have new operations going on. So you'll see us come forward with some new operations. We continue to do that because we want to show Mississippians we're here to protect you, that everyone in law enforcement is believing in a better day, and we're going to stand very strong for you, and we're going to go after those criminals.
You were on with me maybe a year and a half ago, and I asked you a question, and your answer, I don't think it took you aback. I mean, but you said, I'm focused on my job. I asked you about your future, and it was a long way away from the governor's race. We're now closer. We're still a long way away, 14 months from Election Day. Where are you now in terms of your future?
Well, thank you for that question, and I do remember quite well when you asked me that a while back. Well, I'm very honored certainly to be here on SuperTalk and have the opportunity to visit with you, and I'm very excited to tell you now that I am proud to announce my candidacy to be the next governor of the state of Mississippi. So today is a big day. I'm very honored. I have been able to serve and garner the trust of the state of Mississippi for all Mississippians for a number of years through my time as treasurer, and certainly my time as the attorney general. But I'm excited because I think there's so much out there, and I'd like to continue to give back. I'd like to continue to serve people in the state of Mississippi. We've had a lot of great things going on, and certainly if the Dobbs case taught us anything, it taught us to be bold and be strategic. And I'm going to continue serving in that capacity as the governor. Certainly Mississippi, we've done an amazing job. We've turned the corner. We've had great conservative leadership under Governors Barber and Bryant and Reeves. And so what's been happening? The nation is watching Mississippi. But what they're really looking for is, what are we going to do next? And I think this is the moment where we need a very serious, mature governor to stand up and to lead and continue to bring Mississippi to that leadership position. We've been leading in education and economic development and law and order. So this is really about serious governing. This is about strategic planning. And this is about taking Mississippi to the national spotlight of conservative governance.
When did you first entertain the idea of, hey, one day I might put my hat in the ring, I might put my name out there to be governor? Was it as a girl growing up in Marshall County? Was it sometime in law school? Was it as your career was advancing? The very first time?
Actually, it's been, the encouragement through the years in my statewide capacity as service. And I've been very, again, encouraged people to say, please consider this. And so as I've done that, then that's now I've kind of gotten to where we are today to make this announcement.
What does a Lynn Fitch governorship look like? Should you be rewarded by voters in Mississippi?
Well, again, I've just been extremely honored to serve in the capacity as the state treasurer and as the attorney general. And I've got a very strong record leadership. I'm in a position, I'm ready to take Mississippi to the top. We're in a great position in our state to be the leader, and that means bringing everybody together in our state, engaging everybody, all Mississippians, to drive and strive for the leadership position that Mississippi should be attaining. And so I'm excited about that. But there are a lot of things that I'm really particularly posting up that I think we can do as we do it as a unified front. Certainly, I want to make life more affordable for Mississippians. Want to really focus on strong economic development and then having safer communities. And with that comes so many other things. Our workforce is enhanced. Our education continues to grow. I'd really like to see us accelerate removing the income tax. I think a personal income tax removal will make a huge difference. I'd like to see us continue to move forward with our entrepreneurs and our small businesses. They are the innovators. They are driving our economy, as well as all the corporations that are here in the state of Mississippi. We need to continue to show that Mississippi is a really good investment. And not only do we have a great place for the workforce, but it's a great quality of life. And I'd like to continue to showcase that. And education, wow. Look what has happened in Mississippi, that people are looking at us and going, wow, the Mississippi miracle. But for me, that's not the end game. We should now continue with the Mississippi momentum and continue to move forward in that arena. So we have so many great things that are happening. But you know, Richard, our greatest asset are the people here in the state of Mississippi. And I'd like to continue to expand opportunities for every Mississippian to get us to attain the leader.
When I think about the economic development story for Mississippi, and I'm not trying to sell anybody short in doing this, but I almost think about it in like a play that's got three parts. That part one was Haley Barbour's vision for the state, but recognizing that we kind of needed to get our financial house in order. Building out the rainy day fund, putting Mississippi in a good position financially, and starting to try to attract companies. Phil Bryant continued that legacy and became more aggressive in terms of bringing companies to Mississippi, whether it's Yokohama or others that came in. And then Tate Reeves, in a lot of ways, has kind of put that on steroids and has been very, very aggressive in attracting companies to Mississippi. So if those are the first three parts in the play, what does part four look like in terms of not only continuing on that path, but taking it to another level?
Well, certainly the leadership of Governor Barbour and Bryant and Reeves has really, as you said, set the stage. That has really positioned us. Again, we've been the nation's best kept secret. We need to really highlight, we want you all to be here and to be a part of Mississippi, and I think we are ready for that. Again, so phase 4 is saying, look, the state of Mississippi is prepared. We are ready to move, and we want you to be here and to be a part of this great verge of opportunity here in our state.
I don't know if this is the worst kept secret in Mississippi politics, but is certainly one of the poorly kept secrets. There has been a lot of conversation for a long time that you might make this announcement. It is now official. Attorney General Lynn Fitch is going to run for governor in 2027. We'll continue the conversation. And let's talk more about the state income tax that you mentioned just a second ago, possibly removing that. And then also how you balance the role of Attorney General, which is very much a full-time job, with being a candidate for governor. We'll do that on the other side of this break. It's Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk Mississippi. Attorney General Lynn Fitch is my guest. She just announced that she is running for governor here in the great state of Mississippi. We're back with you after this.
Mississippi.
From the Venable Glass.
This show was previously recorded.
again, Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi. Thank you for joining us 1 year from today in terms of the first Tuesday in the month of August. The date is actually August 3rd, 2027. Voters in Mississippi will go to the polls for primaries, and Attorney General Lynn Fitch's name will be on the ballot. You just said publicly for the first time, I'm running for governor for the state of Mississippi. How'd that feel?
Oh, wow. It's exciting just to actually say it out loud and to, again, be able to serve and talk to people across the state of Mississippi about where you see us going, what can we do together, how we can continue to take our state to become the nation's leader. So very exciting.
This is obviously an announcement day. I don't know that it's time to flesh out every single position you have, but there are some things that are important to Mississippians. You mentioned one of them a second ago when you said you want to try to make life more affordable. What does that look like at the state level?
Well, there's a multitude of different areas we need to look at as far as affordability for every Mississippian. Certainly, I think as we accelerate the income tax and that be taken away from the personal level is very important. I think that continues to build our workforce. I think that's an attractive feature for economic development. Certainly, I'm very engaged. I would like to see healthcare outcomes for everyone. So I've been very engaged supporting our independent pharmacies, our hospitals, our community health centers. We need to have healthcare in that regard for everyone. I've certainly taken on the pharmacy benefit managers because there's a lot of cost that's going in there that's being passed on to all Mississippians. So I believe in looking at all the different areas on how we can stand up. We've certainly been doing that in the Attorney General's office, and we'll continue to look for ways that makes life more affordable for people in the state. And with that, again, it's always important to focus on our economic development, as we were just discussing, and then law and order. When people feel safe in their communities, then all of it wraps together. You're safe. You have your businesses, and then again, you have your affordability, and everybody is excited about their community.
In terms of the elimination of the state income tax, we're obviously on that path. It is an incremental elimination over the course of, I guess, the next 12, 13 years. There's an economic question that goes along with that of how do you make up the revenue? Mississippi has been in a good place from a cash position for the last number of years, but that is largely in part to some of the money that is post-COVID that has been coming into the state. So if you eliminate that revenue source, where do you make that up and also allow the budget to continue to grow as it one will need to, but also just is going to because of the cost of everything?
Absolutely. Well, that's where you get back into, we have to continue to have strong conservative governance. That's an important feature. We certainly need to look at all the revenue streams. We need to make those decisions. Having been the treasurer, that was important for me. I understand the budget. I understand the flow of money in our state. And I think that's very beneficial as stepping into the role of the governor. I think we look at best practices and we determine, okay, here's how our revenue stream will be enhanced. Here's what we'll do in our state. And I think we're in a very good position to do that. And you see that when you eliminate your income tax personally, there's a growth of the workforce. You have more expendable income. People are engaged in their states and their communities. So I'm excited that we'll get to that point.
Yeah, Mississippi's a unique place. There are a lot of people that point to Florida and say they don't have any state income tax and they're funding all of these different things. But Florida also is I guess, the primary visitor state in the country. People go there for vacations. Disney's hub there. There's just this constant influx of people coming in. Is there a silver bullet for Mississippi the way that tourism perhaps is for Florida?
Well, I think for us, we are very blessed. We have an amazing quality of life in our state. We offer so many things in our state. You just, whatever your interests are, we have it here. We do have great tourism. We have great economic development. If you like wildlife and fishing, we have that all. We have a musical culture. We have athletics. We are very blessed in our state. As I said, we're still this hidden jewel here. Yeah. And as people come in, when they come visit us, they go, oh, wow, I didn't know Mississippi has all this. So I think we need to continue to highlight and showcase all the wonderful things we have in our state.
One of the things that it was at the forefront this past legislative session was a conversation around school choice and how funding should happen with public schools versus private schools. we've already gotten multiple messages on the C Spire text line this morning saying, hey, where does the Attorney General stand in the school choice conversation? Without going way off in the weeds, what from a high-level standpoint would you say initially as you throw your name into the mix as a candidate for governor?
Well, at high level, look, I have one of my daughters is a teacher, so I'm very appreciative of the teaching that goes on in our schools and the dedication to mold those young minds to ultimately be the workforce. So again, I'm very grateful for our education, teachers, administrators, and so forth. I've always been a believer that parents should be involved and help make the right decisions for their child. I've been a big supporter throughout the years of parental rights and have asked the legislature to pass that. You'll even see that I've got different things. I believe the parents should have an interest in what their children are seeing, what their curriculum looks like, what their extracurriculars look like.
Okay. Attorney General Lynn Fitch is my guest. She has announced that she is running for governor here in the state of Mississippi. What do the next few days look like for you? You make an announcement like this, I'm assuming you're going to get out and see as many people as you can, as quickly as you can.
Oh, absolutely. Again, what an amazing day. It's so exciting. Again, I'm so honored to be here with you today and make this announcement. But I also love to get out and visit across the state. So I will be on a schedule of being in Jackson and Hattiesburg and the coast, Meridian, Columbus, Tupelo, Cleveland, and DeSoto County. So again, it's important for me to get out, talk to people, listen, and talk about the excitement that we all have together as we look forward to some bold and courageous leadership in our state.
So Lynn Fitch is coming to your city, it sounds like, and many of those just over the next 3 days, a statewide tour that will begin tomorrow. I'm always intrigued when somebody who is elected to public office says, I'm seeking another office moving forward. You, more than most even, have got a pretty significant job. How do you balance being a candidate for the state's highest office with the importance of your role right now as Attorney General?
Well, I certainly take my role very strongly as the Attorney General and the service, but know that will not stop. It will not cease. I've got an amazing team. We'll continue to do the work that we've been charged to do every day, representing people, changing lives, empowering people. Again, we'll be out there continuing to fight fraud, to fight predators, to support law enforcement. None of that changes. In fact, I'll continue to be engaged. We were talking earlier, I like to go out on the operations. I will continue to be out there with the team as we go after criminals. Again, being involved in every step of the way in the AG's office. So none of that changes, and everyone needs to know we will continue to do the great work we've done for the last 7 years and to continue to do that as we round this out.
But how do you do it all? There are only 24 hours in a day, only 7 days in a week, and I have found myself with kids and balancing jobs going, if I could just have another day in the week or just have another couple of hours in the day, how do you manage that?
Well, again, having amazing team leaders and team members across the state. Again, I'm engaged every day. I know the big ticket items that we're doing. I know the small issues that are coming up because it's important. I was hired to serve in this role as the chief legal officer and the chief law enforcement officer, and I take that very seriously. So it's a lot happening every single day. Definitely never dull.
There are some politicians who have no trouble asking for money, and there are others who just absolutely hate doing that. When you run for an office like this, fundraising is absolutely a part of it. I think when you are in the rumored to be a candidate portion of your career, people have opinions about ability to raise money. How do you approach that?
Well, certainly it's part of being in a statewide elected position, and then certainly running for an office is you have to fundraise. People have been very gracious. I've been very grateful for their support. People have been very willing to donate to this campaign, to my past campaigns, and that means a lot. It's just a part of what we have to do when you run for office.
Was there a conversation or a person that, if you were teetering on this decision at any point, that pushed you over the edge? Or nudged you, not pushed you, but nudged you and kind of gave you the courage to say, all right, let's do this?
Well, I've had a lot of amazing friends and mentors and champions who've said, I think this is a good opportunity for you to move into this position and serve in the governor's role. But I'll tell you, I was so blessed. I had the opportunity to work for Governor Barber, so I learned a lot of amazing leadership skills, watched him. He had trusted me to run some agencies. And so, again, just the bandwidth, my experience, having served in that capacity, served in the role of the treasurer, and now as the Attorney General, it gives me a great knowledge base going into serve as the next governor of the state of Mississippi.
Only 30 seconds or so left. I'm assuming you've talked to Governor Barber about this. Did he give you any insight as to what the next year was going to be like and what it was going to look like and feel like?
Well, it's always about being out, being in the state, talking to people, and listening. And listening is so key because that's how you change where we need to fit the needs of all Mississippians. So I'm excited about it.
Attorney General Lynn Fitch, candidate for governor in the state of Mississippi. Thanks so much for sharing this with us this morning, and wish you all the best.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
We'll take a time out. We're back with you after this. It's Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk Mississippi, presented by Community Bank.
From the Seabrook Paint.
Super Talk Mississippi.
Mornings with Richard Cross, presented by Community Bank. The Lieutenant Governor, Delbert Hosemann, is my guest. We appreciate you being part of the conversation and welcome your comments and questions on the C Spire text line at 601-879-4395. A little over a year ago, the Commissioner of Agriculture, Andy Gibson, announced that he was a candidate for governor in the state of Mississippi. Shortly after that, I asked the Lieutenant Governor what his plans were, and I'm paraphrasing, but he said, I'll let you know at a later date. Going to think about it, going to pray about it, not entirely sure what the future holds. Since then, we have seen former Speaker of the House, Philip Gunn, announce that he is a candidate, and earlier this week, Attorney General Lynn Fitch announced her candidacy as well. So, Mr. Lieutenant Governor, are you going to run for governor?
You know, you're doing well. You've had announcements on your show, one already this week, Richard. You should be proud of yourself.
I'm just trying to make it a twofer.
I know. You should be proud. You got some people think the people are listening to your show. The way I told you before, the way you make these decisions, I make them along these lines. You first start at home, and then you start at church, and then I take out a yellow legal pad, and I put down the advantages and disadvantages, and that's always done a good way for me to do that. Start at home, go to church, and then take out your yellow legal pad. So we'll see. We're not on the announcements. You already had one announcement this week, so you're good.
Well, I think you told me last time that you were going to wait until after the session was over, and it's been over for a while. Yeah. I mean, do you need a legal pad? Do you want to send you one?
I've got one, Richard, and it's got notes on it, so we'll deal with it in due time.
Okay. Any timeline for you on that decision?
You know, not really. We're looking at the coming fall, and I know people say this kind of stuff, but it really applies. In the last 48 hours, I've worked on lowering drug costs. I've worked on attainable housing for people to be in here. I've worked on reduction in taxes. I've worked on a whole plethora of different things. I'm actually working pretty busily on the things that people hired me to do. Some people think it's okay to quit a year early and get paid and start running. I got a job to do, so I think I better concentrate on that. People will judge you, I think, by the job you do.
And I appreciate that stance, but there also is a timeline where you've got to get out. And I know you visit with people all the time, but you can't just a week before or 2 weeks before an election say, hey, I'm up for this as well. That's not a great formula for winning either.
No, but I found like in the announcement that was earlier this week, and good luck to Lynn, that I get more phone calls about making sure, I want you to run now. You make sure you run. I got them from the Mississippi Gulf Coast to the northern parts in the last 48 hours. People encouraging me to run for governor. And I think that really evolves around that we've been there a while, and the state is doing exceptionally well. Our education is better, obviously. We funded all of that. And our economics are good. Transportation, we're building a bunch of different things. as you know, we paid off $1.2 billion of the state's debt. Nobody's ever done that before, like ever. And not just me. I mean, we've got the legislature did that. And things are just going exceptionally well. We fixed the retirement plan, which is a miracle in itself. Voter ID, I did that long ago. And so it's just going well. And I think people view me as having good common sense, middle of the road, Reagan conservative guy that tries to do the best thing. So most of the time gets there. So I get a lot of calls about that, and I'm honored to do that. I never thought I'd be here in the first place.
Earlier this week, we got the first revenue report from the Joint Legislative, the JBLC, I messed that acronym, ahead of projections by about $20 million or 4%. Was that surprising to you at all?
Yes. We were about 17 to 20 million ahead. Last year we took a couple of bad months towards the end, and we ended up having a good last month, finished about 170 million ahead. We continue, as the country does, continue to have a significant impact. A lot of that, Richard, is the construction of these various cybersecurity centers. They're exceptionally expensive. They're spending billions of dollars. That means they're paying the driver and the guy that runs the dirt truck and all these others. So we're seeing huge amounts of money. That will end out probably in the 2 to 3 year range, and those will go away and we'll revert back to 180 to 200 employees in there versus literally thousands of people working on that.
But that's assuming we don't have ongoing construction of the data centers, right?
That's correct. I think where we are on data centers probably is to take a good healthy pause, and I'll tell you why. We're investing with Entergy $3 billion and to build turbines. We're building 2 new electric plants. And under the scenario that was given to us by these various companies, about 60 to 70% of it will be paid for by those companies. Now, that presupposes, of course, that they're able to pay. So you want to watch it. It's like you're doing your investing in stocks. You don't know all your money on one stock. So I think we need to make sure that the economic flow is there. I worked this week on small nuclear reactors. Eventually, there'll be one running that data center. And it's not going to be this year or next year, probably 10 years out. But eventually, they will get their electricity from the most economical point, which will be a small nuclear reactor. The United States has 2 of them. They're operating now out in the West, and we're trying to get them to build them here in Mississippi. That's one of the things I'm working on. So the energy usage will move around, and so we just need to pay attention here. Amazon's done a great job. We're glad to have them here, but I also want to make sure that they're cash flowing before I'm going to put ratepayers on the hook. And right now, if they stay in existence about 10 or 12 years, we'll get all our money back, and then we'll be in pretty good shape.
I'm wildly fascinated by the technology that goes along with the modular nuclear reactors, those small reactors that you just referenced a second ago. Is that going to be existing energy companies? You referenced Entergy just a second ago. Mm-hmm. Are they going to be the ones that are in the business of that, or is this going to be private companies? I mean, could it be the next spinoff for Elon Musk?
Well, I think both. And I've met with Entergy about this, and they are in discussions, and I'll let Haley and them talk about that part, but they're in discussions with small nuclear reactors as to be a purveyor for them to utilize in different site locations, particularly like we've talked about where there's major energy use. In the same breath, there are other companies that are constructing these to be bought by an individual. They're very expensive right now, so their economics aren't right yet. But it'll get there, and for a whole various number of reasons. But it will get there to where they're economically feasible. So right now they're not, and I know that Entergy is working with various and sundry ones that create these small nuclear reactors, and we are actively looking at other companies that we can bring to Mississippi. I've got a leg up in this. I don't know how we got on this particular topic, but I've got a leg up in my work on this because we already have Grand Gulf. Right. So I can go build these things when I've already got all of the permits I need for all the surrounding area and the escape routes and all the things you have to do to get approved. So I've got those. The state of Mississippi's got those. So we have an opportunity to actually construct these things, these various reactors in Mississippi, which is where I want to go. It's not just the utilization of one out here in Madison somewhere. I want to build them. So our energy committee chairman, Mr. Carter, Senator Carter from the coast, has been active in this, and we intend to continue to be active.
Is there an appetite for another major nuclear reactor like exists at Grand Gulf there in Claiborne County? Those are ridiculously expensive.
They're very expensive, and they're weighing those against the cost of these small nuclear reactors. And the last I talked to Entergy about that particular part, they said it was too expensive to build.
Yeah. I got a question from a buddy, and to your point, I know we're off topic a little bit from maybe where we thought we were going to go. Says, if we can run an aircraft carrier or a submarine off of a nuclear reactor, why can't we run cities off them?
Well, the answer is yes. We are.
Let's get there.
I fully intend to be there, and I want Mississippi to be on the leading edge of it because I think it's going to eventually be cheaper. Your cost per kilowatt right now would be higher because the things are too darn expensive right now.
Sure.
But as they matriculate down, you remember what TVs used to cost and what they cost now.
Yeah. Minute and a half until the break, and then we'll wrap up on the other side.
Yeah.
First joint legislative redistricting committee meeting at the Capitol this past week. Did you think anything was accomplished?
Yes, we started the road. I encourage everybody that's listening to your program. You have great listening audience, and these are politically aware people. I want you to go to the meetings and tell my senators and my members of the House that the Speaker put on there. Tell them how you want Mississippi redistricted. Some people play with these things on the internet or whatever, but this is a significant rule. It is going to affect how you elect your congressman. It is going to affect possibly how you elect your Supreme Court. You could see some redistricting in the legislature. So this is a massive thing, and everybody needs to pay attention. So we're having these hearings not for just fun. We're having them because we want to know how you want us to do this. I think that's how we ought to do it. And when they come back here in October, we're going to redistrict Mississippi and then ask for a special session from the governor.
Okay, that was going to be my next question. Do you anticipate a special session before the end of the calendar year?
I'm going to request one, and I have discussed it with the governor and would appreciate very much if he would do that sometime or right after Thanksgiving.
Delbert Hosemann is the Lieutenant Governor. He will stick around for just a couple of more minutes. We'll visit with him and wrap the conversation up on the other side of this break. Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk Mississippi. Glad to be with you. The show is presented by Community Bank, rooted in our community.
From the Venable Glass Track.
Don't know much about history. Don't know much about...
Thank you for being part of the conversation this morning. It's Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi. Just a couple of minutes left with the Lieutenant Governor, Delbert Hosemann, who's always kind with his time when he comes in studio. The last time you and I visited, you did not mince words about your displeasure with the IHL, the way they are operating, and the conversation around performance-based funding for our colleges and universities. And you pointed out that the proposal that they had on the table allocated about 1% of their overall budget for performance-based funding. I had a follow-up conversation with Robert Johnson, the minority leader in the House, and he said the idea of performance-based funding was absolutely ridiculous, and he pointed to the important role that Mississippi Valley plays in its community and other HBCUs do in theirs as well. Regardless of which side of the conversation you're on, how you feel about performance-based funding, this feels like one of those topics that's easy to talk about, but it's a little harder to get action on. How does this story advance one way or another?
Well, first of all, let's just start with the facts. That's always a good place to start. And then, of course, I was terribly disappointed in the Institutions of Higher Learning Board. Mississippi Alcorn University graduates 32% of their people within 4 years, and 46% graduated in 6 years. Southern Mississippi, 38% in 4 years, 51%. Ole Miss, 54% in 4 years, 67% in 6 years. MUW, 28% in 4 years, 37%. Mississippi Valley State University, 14% graduate in 4 years. In 6 years, 25% of them graduate. Mississippi State University, 41% in 4 years, 63% in 6 years. Jackson State, 21% in 4 years, 34% in 6 years. Delta State, 29%, graduated in 4 years, and 46%. The national average is about 66%. Only 2 of our universities actually meet the national average on graduation. So, the first thing that we need to remember is that we are educating the children of the future. The new Richard or the new Tate or whomever, the new board of supervisors, new president of the bank, whatever, is being educated in our university systems. And they are not being graduated in a timely fashion or significantly enough of them. Now, if you want to argue the social aspects of this, yes, we certainly can have those kinds of discussions, and I appreciate Representative Johnson. But the facts are, we're not graduating people. And then the second part of the facts is that degree may not be worth much of anything. So when we came up and passed a bill in the Senate, we recommended 75% of the actual money that we spend, about $800 or $900 million, comes from us, and the rest of it comes from tuition and whatnot. Our $800 or $900 million should be based 75% on success. How many kids are you graduating? Do they have a good degree? Are they able to get an economic job? Are we educating the next 2 decades of leaders in Mississippi? Those are very common and should be asked. But no, what we got back was, no, we want to allocate 1%. That's what the IHL got back from them. 1% on performance and 99% on just leaving it like it is. It's not going to stay like it is. We don't have the money as a state, first of all, to carry ineptitude. That's number one. Number two, the biggest part of this is we're lying to our kids. They're spending their money, they're getting in debt and everything, and they're not graduating. And if they do graduate, very rarely, then they don't get a job that is meaningful. They can't pay off their student debt. So we're not being accurate with them. And so you'll see hearings coming. And there are, Richard, I just want to be honest, I can see these coming where we will look at the legislature allocating its money based on performance. Now, for the last 3 years you've been around, I've been asking y'all, we need to do better. We need to make sure that we're upside. And there are places where we need. Ole Miss has an offsite. Southern has the coast. Mississippi State has one in Meridian. MUW has one in Philadelphia. They all have these satellites and whatnot. There's a real need for access to an education system that is performing. Real need for that. And so we want to ensure that our kids can get those educations. But right now, Richard, we're not performing. And I think you'll see individual boards of legislation this year where each university has its own board. I think you'll see the legislature appropriate its money for people who are performing, just like the real world.
Will the IHL continue to exist because they're a constitutionally created entity?
It's a constitutional entity, so I think, quite frankly, we'll just simply bypass them if we're not able to work with them. I think they were great people. I know all those people, and they're smart. I mean, I think they come with a good heart. I don't know what happens between the time they get appointed and the time we have to look at this.
Mr. Lieutenant Governor, I appreciate your time this morning. Good to visit with you as always. And we'll keep an eye out for when you pass along those notes on the legal path.
I'll tell you one thing. Watching the rest of the country, we need to go vote for Cindy Hyde-Smith. We got to elect a Republican senator out of here. You look at the rest of this country, you know we need that.
Thank you, sir.
SuperTalk Mississippi Media Production.